Let's turn our attentions now to business. Marcus Carlson, our business editor, is here. And Marcus, first up, you're keeping a close eye on the economic fallout of what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. It's new Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk certainly has his work cut out. He's already warned that unpopular measures will be needed to get the economy back on track. Speaking to Parliament earlier, he accused Viktor Yanukovych of stealing billions of dollars. He said loans worth $37 billion had gone missing from state coffers under the now former president Yanukovych. Yatsenyuk said Ukraine is in urgent need of loans from the International Monetary Fund to cover the holes left by the former president. Now, the IMF on its side is sending a team to Ukraine to discuss financial aid. In a statement, IMF chief Christine Lagarde said that the fund is ready to respond. The question is what conditions it will set in return, though. Ukrainian officials, they've previously been skeptical to IMF calls to cut subsidies for natural gas in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the crisis in Ukraine seems to be putting a dampener on stocks this Thursday. The focus is on Russia, as it's been holding war games close to the Ukrainian border. The fear is that the crisis will take a more dangerous turn if Russia gets involved. The two countries have close economic links, and observers say instability in Ukraine is not in Russia's interest. Delana de Souza has more.
A country divided. In Crimea, pro-Russian supporters rally outside the regional parliament. They are demanding greater independence from Kiev. They'd rather look east to Russia. Economic links between the two countries are strong. Ukraine trades more with Russia than any other country. Exports to Russia stand at 25%, while Russia accounts for 32% of imports. The relationship extends beyond trade. Russian banks have around $28 billion of exposure to Ukraine, and according to a board member of Russia's Sberbank, it's in Russia's best interest to get Ukraine back on its feet.
Russian companies are major investors in Ukraine. Russia has every interest in keeping Ukraine peaceful and solvent and together. The most urgent need is keeping the day-to-day economy going.
Ukraine is also a transit country for Russia's #1 export. Pipelines from Russia transport gas through Ukraine to Europe. Russia has frozen its $15 billion bailout package pledged last year to Ukraine, but economic factors suggest it'll benefit from helping its neighbor out.
And we're just getting some words through from the German Foreign Minister, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, this Thursday. He says that the European Union needs to assess Ukraine's financing needs. And he also says that the EU is considering sending a lifeline to the tune of $1 billion to Ukraine. We will, of course, be keeping a close eye on all of the developments when it comes to that. As the Ukrainian crisis is putting pressure on stocks, investors, they're also digesting comments from Janet Yellen. The Federal Reserve Chair has been testifying to the US Congress on the state of the world's biggest economy. It follows a series of underwhelming economic reports. Yellen told senators that unseasonably cold weather may have played a part in dampening consumption in the US, and with that, the entire US economy. She also signaled that jobless levels are still too high for the Fed to end its stimulus program for the US economy and also raise interest rates. Let's listen in.
Those out of a job more than 6 months continue to make up an unusually large fraction of the unemployed. And the number of people who are working part-time but would prefer a full-time job remains very high.
Let's take a look at how the markets are trading then on the back of those comments from Janet Yellen in the United States. We're seeing stocks trading to the upside. As you can see here, we've seen some gains accelerating there over on Wall Street after Janet Yellen wrapped up her testimony to the US Congress. In Europe earlier, we saw stocks claw some of their previous losses back towards the end of trading. As you can see, though, the DAX still ended well below the flat line, whereas the CAC 40 was basically bang on that flat line, whereas the FTSE 100 was ever so slightly above. Let's talk you through a few other corporate stories. The Royal Bank of Scotland has unveiled plans to cut costs and streamline its business. It came as the British lender reported a whopper of a loss of £8.2 billion for 2013. RBS says it will focus on Britain rolling back its global ambitions. The bank was bailed out by British taxpayers back in 2008, and it is still 81% owned by the British government. RBS shares, they were down almost 8% at the close in London. Here in France, shares in nuclear company Areva plunged almost 14%. It comes after Areva reported a net loss for 2013 of almost €500 million. It was the third consecutive year in the red for Areva. The French company says it's taken heavy charges for a contract to build a new reactor in Finland. Lego, meanwhile, is riding high on the success of its first feature film, The Lego Movie. On top of that, the Danish toy maker has posted a 9% rise in annual profits to €820 million. Lego says it saw growth across the world in 2013, with double-digit growth in countries like China, France and Spain. It's also issued an upbeat outlook, saying its growth will outpace the global toy market this year. Big fan of Lego. With that, I'm going to send it back to you, Laura.
I bet you are, Marcus. Thanks very much indeed, and we'll see you in an hour, Marcus. Dan Levy's here with Sports News.